Good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar in our Cypriot Masterclass on how to buy a property in Cyprus the right way. My name's Liz Rowlinson, an overseas property journalist, and I've been doing exhibitions in the magazine for Place in the Sun for 9 years. I've got some really good experts here to talk about all aspects of the buying process, looking for a property in Cyprus. So I'd like to introduce first Esme Pallas.
Hello everybody.
Hi Esme, so you're a lawyer. Could you explain just where you're based and what you do?
Yes, I'm based in Paphos, but our offices have worldwide presence. I am a partner of Michael Kibriya and LLC. I personally specialize in property law, but our firm covers all aspects of law. And we can represent clients all over the island.
Brilliant, thank you. And we have two agents from Sold on Cyprus covering different parts of the island. Denise Kay.
Hi, I'm Denise Kay from Sold on Cyprus. I'm the sales director of the group. I'm actually based on the east coast of Cyprus.
Brilliant. And Wayne Thompson from the Paphos area.
Yeah, good afternoon everybody. My name is Wayne Thompson. I'm the sales manager for the Paphos region, and yes, I'm here to try and answer your questions.
Brilliant. So if anyone's got any questions as we go along, do ping in the Q&A bar at the right of your panel. But we've got probably a lot to pack in, so we're going to crack on with aspects of how to buy in Cyprus. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about why it's important to use a lawyer, but first of all, finding a good agent is really important when buying a property in Cyprus as elsewhere. Richard, can you just flag up why that's so more important than when you're buying abroad than in the UK?
Yeah, hi, thanks Liz. Hello everyone.
Sorry, I haven't introduced you properly, sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, Richard Way, international property journalist. Like Liz, I write about overseas property, not just in Cyprus, but all the other key destinations. I also own a property abroad, so hopefully I've got some understanding and first-hand experience of what it is to look after a property as a second home. Yeah, buying abroad, your agent will assume a far more collaborative and extensive role when you buy in Cyprus or any foreign country. As in the case of Wayne and Denise, they are themselves expats, and many agents who sell property abroad are themselves people who first went to that country to buy a second home or retire, and then through whatever course they've taken, they've ended up working for an estate agency, which means, of course, or open their own, which means, of course, they understand the whole process and the sort of hurdles and the things that you will come up against as a foreign buyer, which you are when you're buying in Cyprus or any other country. So you've got things like language barrier, you've got different property law, you know, what is the cultural way that you behave within the new community, all these things that you're going to have to learn about when you buy your property or move somewhere. You've got to set yourself up fiscally. You need a fiscal identity with a tax number. It's far more involved than just buying a house in the UK. And an agent, a good agent, knows all this. So their job, I'm sure Denise and Wayne will vouch for this, you know, quite honestly, they will say, we don't just find you a property, we help you set yourself up, establish yourself. You know, once you've bought your property, you're going to need to, you know, get your gas connection, maybe not gas in Cyprus, get your satellite connection, mobile phone networks, you might need a plumber, you might need new air conditioning, you know, those sorts of things as well. They will, I'm sure, help you with once you've completed. So yeah, and also people tend to treat their agent, it's more like a buying agent. So if you're buying and you're in the UK and you can't be out in Cyprus every weekend looking, you'll find a good agent that you trust and you know will help you. Like Sold on Cyprus, and then you'll have a good chat. You'll sit down with them. They'll work out exactly what it is you're looking for. They'll probably know more about what property you want than you do, often because they know what you think you want. But when you get out to Cyprus and you see how things are, and you see what the view's like and what the noise is like there, or etc., they'll realize you'll realize that your actual wish list will start changing, and they know this sort of thing. And then you can leave them really to go and look for properties for you, and they will go and present you options. You might see some on the internet back at home. What's this like? What's this like? Ask them. You don't know. You can't see that there's a building site the other side of that or that. And then they will present you genuine properties that they think you should go and see, and then you'll go out and they'll look after you during your trip. That's the other thing. You're going to need to do a viewing trip when you buy abroad. So you're going to need to go out to Cyprus, and then they will get involved as much or as little as you want in your trip. Some people like to have dinner with their agent every night, spend as much time with them. Some people prefer to meet them, after breakfast to see some properties and then have their own time in the evening. So they'll adapt to that as well. So you can see that they do far more than you would, they would as an agent in the UK. Is that enough, Liz? Or?
Yeah, that's quite a lot of chapter and verse, but yeah, no, a good agent does a lot. That's clear, and we've got two here. But Wayne, what should when we've just when you found someone a really lovely property, what does the purchase process entail in terms of, without going through every detail of it? I mean, it's vaguely based on the UK system, isn't it? But is there anything that's very different?
No, it's the Cypriot law here is based on UK common law anyway. The process is very, very simple here in Cyprus, and probably better than the UK in some respects. Basically, we find you the home that you love. You make an offer. We negotiate to get the offer accepted, and the offer is accepted on the proviso that you generally pay a small reservation fee to show that you're a serious and committed buyer. That reservation fee could be anywhere from €3,000 to €10,000, for example, depending on the value of the property. It would be a fully refundable reservation through Sold on Cyprus, subject to your lawyer's searches in the land registry. Once your lawyers confirm that the property is a safe purchase, then they proceed to contracts. Upon drafting a contract, you approve it. It's all written in English. You approve it, the vendor approves it, and then upon signing of that contract, between 20 and 30% of the value of the property is paid, and the contract is then lodged at the land registry, which means that the property can no longer be sold to anybody else. And then written in the contract is a completion date, whether that's 4 weeks after signing or 12 weeks after signing. It's what's been pre-agreed by you, the buyer, and also the seller. So it's a very, very simple process.
Brilliant. And Esme, this is what you're doing all the time. How long typically does a sort of purchase process take onto the sales price of the property?
Well, it will take, if the funds are available from signing of the contract, it will usually take around 30 days. Maybe 45, depending on how fast the parties wish to complete. But 30 days, I would say, that are sufficient for the vendor to get the tax clearance and to enable everything to proceed smoothly and complete. The costs are indeed relatively low, especially now that the government has given an incentive for investing in Cyprus, and transfer fees have been reduced by 50%. So on a purchase, on a property worth around 200,000, for example, I would say that the transfer fees currently would be around €3,500. The stamp duty would be around €350, and legal fees are normally around 1% of the purchase price plus VAT. So on a property worth 200,000, I would say €6,000 would cover everything.
Great. Yeah, and I've got a relevant question which I might just put your way now. We've got a question from a buyer looking to buy a resale property in Paphos. Do buyers pay any estate agent fees, or is it the seller's responsibility?
No, that would be the seller's responsibility, so purchasers do not need to worry about that.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And we'll just have another question before we go on. Wayne, how important is it to learn the Greek language when retiring in Cyprus? Do you know any Greek?
My Greek is very limited. I've lived here since 2008, and I'm shameful to admit that I don't speak Greek or Cypriot. Um, English is a commonly spoken language here. You can walk into the pharmacy or the electricity board and have no trouble communicating with the locals at all. So it's not a necessity to learn the language. But if you do, your life is enhanced here. You get more involved with the community and the local people, and the farmers, and so on and so forth. But,
and my grandchildren as well.
Yeah,
They
I mean, my
think-
children both speak read and write and speak fluent Greek because they went to a Greek school and before going to an English school. So when they don't want mum and dad to know what they're talking about, they
exactly.
Brilliant. Richard, moving on to new build properties, we've alluded to some nice new schemes in Cyprus in the previous webinar, which you can get a recording of if you've missed on our website. But buying a new build, more generally, because I know you cover all different countries, Richard, what are the things you have to be careful of about buying a new build property?
There are lots of benefits, of course, but the things you need to be careful of are, the obvious one is your contract, but it's absolutely watertight, and everything that you want to be in that property, it's included in the contract. Your lawyer, Esme, someone like Esme, you know, you'll sit down with her and you'll go through it, or she'll go through it, and you'll check every clause, condition. So your contract is, you need to find a reliable builder developer with a good track record. Agents will help you. People like Soul and Cyprus, they work with builders, developers all the time. They do plot self builds, not just off plan. If you're building your own place, a plot, then you're going to need a good builder. So speak to your agent. Ask to go and see developments they've already done or houses they've already built, so you get an idea of their quality. Speak to the vendors, the people who had them built, you know, quietly, so you can get an idea about were there any delays, how cooperative were they during the build. So you need to, you know, choose carefully. And the other really important thing is make sure any deposits or stage payments you make throughout the process are protected, they're insured or they're ring fenced. I think it's actually law now in Europe anyway, in the EU, for stage payments to be guaranteed. So again, your lawyer will know all this, should know all this, and they will guide you on that, and they will make sure that any deposits or stage payments you make are protected right until the moment that you complete. And your lawyer will check that the contract has been fulfilled to the letter, and then obviously the final balance can be paid. The other thing you might want to check as well is, you know, when are your payments going to be due throughout the build? You know, not only because you're going to have to plan the funds, but you might not be comfortable with some of the stages they want. Normally, it's when you reach certain stages of the build process, you'll pay the next tranche. Some developers will vary. Some will be, I know in Spain, for example, at the moment, you can pay a 20-30% deposit and then nothing until completion. Others might be 10% down after 28 days after signing, and then another 30 after 6 months, and then the rest of them. So it will vary. But, you know, again, these things are negotiable as well. So speak to your agent and or your developer if it's direct, and talk to them about what options you could have. And just another thing, thinking about stage payments, you need to consider currency as well, because if you're buying a property today, which is going to be completed in a year or 18 months time, and you're thinking about what the euro cost will be in sterling, of course, exchange rate, no one knows where the exchange rate will be in a year or 18 months time. So if you're going to wait until then to transfer your final payment, the pound might have weakened a lot, and it's going to cost you more to buy the final balance. It could have gone the other way, but again, there are ways of mitigating against exchange rate, which I think they'll probably talk about in the currency session later on. I won't try and steal any of their thunder, but yeah, think about currency, contracts, good lawyer like Esme who'll make sure all those things are looked after, protect your money right the way through the process. Yeah, find a good builder, good developer.
Brilliant. On the subject of new build, there's a question, so we'll have a go at that now. Wayne, how long do title deeds take for new builds?
Once the property's been completed, it's checked by a government official that it's been built to the exact plans that were submitted, and then you're giving a number, and approximately, I would say, 12 to 18 months would be an average time period for your title deeds to be issued.
Because in the past they have, I think this questioner said it's taken quite a few years, but that's actually been speeded up in recent years.
Yeah, the government strong armed a lot of the large developers that I mean, Paphos was there wasn't really a resale market. I think Denise will agree in Paphos, 15 years ago, as such, everybody was buying new build properties or off-plan properties, and the builders were borrowing against their assets. And again, I think this was one of the reasons that created delays on the title deed issue. But the government made some new legislations and basically strong-armed a lot of the developers now. So title deeds are being issued. And again, if you do your own individual plot build, or even with the new with the developers now, yeah, your title deeds are issued relatively quickly, so 12 to 18 months.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Denise, is it possible to get a mortgage for a property in Cyprus at the moment, or are most people cash buyers?
Okay, yes, it is possible. As Richard was saying earlier, at Sold on Cyprus, we tend to handhold everybody. So if you come on a viewing trip, we would make the introduction to the bank. You will need a bank account anyway, regardless of whether you're having a loan or not. The bank for your utility bills, if you're relocating your pension. So we will take you to the bank. We normally send the customer a list of documents that they need to bring with them. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's very important to know your client, and the documents will be needed by the bank to open the account. We can take you in to the local bank manager to meet personally, and he can open the account while you're here on your week's viewing trip. He will also be able to give you cards that week as well. So everything can be done for you. If you decide that you need a loan, there's a few things to think about. Financial options. Would you borrow back in the UK against property that you have? Maybe equity release, and then come to Cyprus as a cash buyer. This is one way of purchase. But if you do decide that you want to borrow in Cyprus, there are a number of things to think about. The banks will only lend on a title deed property or a new build property. The new build property, they will take a share of the land. If it's a title deed, they will take the title deed as the collateral. You are looking at between a 30 and 40% contribution. Okay, so this is to safeguard that you will actually get the loan. They like a large contribution towards the property. If it's an off-plan or a new build property, you will pay your contribution, and then at each stage, as Wayne was saying earlier, a local authority from the planning department will come along in accordance with the contract that your lawyer's done. They will check each stage. As each stage is checked, the bank will release the money. Okay. Interest rates are around 3.3 currently for non-residents. Okay. This is for people that are buying holiday homes, or clients that maybe live 6 months here and 6 months in the UK. Some of our older clients from the UK tend to do this lifestyle as well. So around 3.3. It's exactly the same as the UK. Your affordability will be, there will be an analysis of your affordability to make sure that you can afford to repay those monies every month. So yes, it's you can get a loan, but it can restrict in terms of your choice. It's only new builds or title deed properties that you can buy if you get a loan. If you're making the payments yourself, something Richard mentioned about the security, by having a bank account and if you secure your currency, you can secure a rate so you know exactly where you are, and then send your monies to your own account in Cyprus, and then you can release the monies at each stage. We actually have a customer service manager that will go along to the site every stage. She will take photographs of where you are. So it's not just the lawyer looking at it for you and sending you, yes, it's okay to make the next payment. You've got somebody independent taking photographs so you know exactly where you are and sending you those photographs so that you are happy to then release the next stage payment. So it's very secure. You don't pay for what you don't have. The shell will go up, you will pay for the shell. The bricks will go in, you will pay for the bricks. If you're not paying, the bank will be paying. So it's a secure way of purchasing.
Great, thank you for that. That's really full. I've got a question on another question on title deeds, Esme. What about one of the same questions asked? What about a resale property if title deeds are available? I mean, you know, sometimes they're not available, sometimes they aren't, as Wayne alluded to briefly earlier, aren't they? It's not necessarily a problem not buying one without.
There are three possibilities. You have the properties that have been built, the title deeds are in the owner's name, okay? Then you have the second possibility where the title deeds are available but are still in the developer's name. In such case, it's not a problem. You would buy through what we call an assignment agreement, whereby the rights of the owner would be assigned to the purchaser, and the developer would transfer the title deeds directly into the name of the new purchasers with this assignment agreement. And then, of course, you have the new builds, which de facto the title deeds are not yet available because they have to follow the necessary process, which my panelists described before. In the third case, where the title deeds are not yet available, what is important, and again, it was mentioned previously, due diligence has to be done to make sure that the necessary permits are in place, and the development, the construction is progressing properly. Eventually, the land registry will issue the title deeds, but it does take some time and you have to go through the process. And your lawyer would check that everything.
Question for you, Wayne. Nigel Beaumont asks, do all agents have a sort of dual buyer and seller role in Cyprus, or are there some separate buyer agents? Because you buy and sell, don't you?
Yes, we facilitate both roles, yeah. So yeah, we facilitate, Sold on Cyprus facilitate both sides in terms of buyers and sellers, so yes.
But in some countries, you get buying agents who basically just find properties for people, but you act for both.
No, we act for both, yeah. So.
And I think maybe what they also mean is if you have a property that's represented by an agent, I mean they're representing the seller effectively, although they're also trying to sell to find a buyer. But you know, only the lawyer will represent you in terms of your interests, really.
Yes, yeah.
What we try to do at Sold, we're independent. So the choice, we try to find out the buyer's needs and what they're buying for. So for example, if they want to retire, it's a different choice to if they want to buy a property to let out. So yes, we have resale properties that we list, and we have new build properties that we list. And we will go through the process. Yes, we are represented by the resale and the developer, but we're independent. We act on behalf of the buyer to find the correct property. And then the legal team, the lawyer, independent lawyer, will check their choice and do the due diligence to make sure that they're legally covered.
Just on that, can I ask as well, I mean, it happens in other countries, particularly in Spain, where agents will collaborate if they have a client who's got a specific property that you know they want and you know is right for them. Will you talk, and it's not listed with you, will you, so the buyer is your client, will you take them to the...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, we if we have somebody on it, normally we tend to have clients exclusively, so that we can do everything for them, open their bank account, you know, sort out whatever they need, find them a good lawyer, and everything that goes with that. Now, they will list if they've seen property on the internet. As you said earlier, you can't always see the property on an internet. You don't know the orientation, what's around the property. So sometimes they'll give me a list. I like this one I've seen, and some of them may be with other agents. That doesn't matter. We analyse everything, we look at all the properties, we then shortlist what's right for the buyer. And if we have to then make an appointment with another agent to see that property, that's no problem at all.
Thank you. We alluded earlier to sort of, well, actually in the previous webinar, about different areas being great for buy to let. Wayne, are there any restrictions on renting out your property in Cyprus?
No, no.
Great. Fabulous. Brilliant. And I mean, resorts, golf resorts, or all different sorts of resorts are very popular with buyers for sort of as an investment and as sort of popular for holiday lets. Richard, what are the advantages of buying on a sort of a managed resort for buyers?
Yeah, very popular thing in lots of countries, and something that most British people don't tend to do until they go abroad. So it is a whole new concept, really. One of the key things is security. So if you're buying within a complex or a resort that's either got a manned sentry, or it's got a reception area, or it's simply that's gated entry, then you know that you're not sort of exposed out on a hillside somewhere down a bumpy track, with, especially when you're not there. If you're not there a lot of the year, you know that it's safe within a secure area. The other thing is, obviously, you're going to have communal facilities as well, and that can range depending on the development and complex. So, a small complex like in the middle of Universal, somewhere like that, there might just be a pool, parking. You've got the beach down the road. You've got everything else you need to walk away, so you have a pool. You go to a bigger place like Aphrodite Hills, somewhere like that, and you name a facility, they've probably got it, all the way down from a lovely spa centre down to PGA golf course, swimming pools, bars, restaurants, clubs and things like that. So your entertainment, if you like, and your leisure facilities, they're all provided for you, and they're all on site. Some people want that all the time, and some people like to dip in and out, and they'll spend as much time out amongst the villages or around Paphos town, whatever. And some people like to just spend a lot of time on the resort. So you've got all the facilities there. The other thing is maintenance. Most of these resorts will have, if it's not on site, they'll have people who will maintain everything, not just the communal facilities, but often there are management firms that will have a key holding service for you, and make sure that your property is, not just fine on the outside, but they can do a monthly check for you, check there's not a leak or something. And thing is, though, all these things you will pay for. So if you buy on a community or on a resort, you're going to pay a service charge or a community fee communal fee every month, normally, or every quarter, depending on the facilities and how much upkeep's required. And again, if you want someone to do regular checks and have hold a key for you, you're going to pay a small fee for that. But point is, it's all there. They're often referred to as lock up and leave, these sorts of properties, because you can literally lock up, leave your key with your management firm or in reception if there is one, whatever, and then fly off back to the UK, and you know that it's there, it's safe, and when you come back, everything will be as you left it. And a lot of these places, especially the ones that are in good locations or have all sorts of amenities, they rent well as well. So if you're going to do rentals, you want to earn a bit of income, and you're on a good resort with good facilities, then I think, sure, Denise and Wayne will say the same, that they're very lettable over somewhere that's, hasn't got everything like that on its doorstep.
Thanks. And another question related to that. Wayne, you did say that rentals are permitted, but do you need a license?
That's a good question, actually. Yes and no. I mean, there's people that will create a business, and you can earn 19,500 tax-free here in Cyprus before having to pay any taxes. So there's a lot of people that create a business and run it as a business that way, and there's a lot of people that don't. So it's a choice. I think maybe Esme can answer that question better, whether it's compulsory to have a license to rent property.
Well, at the moment, there's new legislation passed, for example, to have the property registered, used as Airbnb. You have to actually go through the process of registering the property to use it as Airbnb. So it's being legitimized and controlled by the government. But then again, it gives the opportunity for people to rent it out legally. Obviously, the profits have to be declared, but again, there is a large amount of tax free that you're allowed before paying taxes. And it can be done. It's not a very complicated process. So if Airbnb is what you have in mind, then yes, you most definitely have to go through a process of registering the property with Airbnb.
Okay, that's great. That's short-term rentals. And just a quick question, Denise. Are you finding that people come out and rent long-term with a view to buying? Is that a popular thing or not?
They can do that. I find that people will come out and options are open. So it depends. They come to look. Normally, they don't say one thing or another. They won't say, I'm definitely going to rent before I buy. I think, they come, if they see something, particularly if it's off plan and they decide to buy, then we can arrange a long-term rental for them. That's rather nice, actually, because then they can stay in the long-term rental and actually see the process of their retirement home actually being built. I think either they are clients that want to rent or clients that actually want to buy. Obviously, I'm in the real estate business, so I think rental money is wasted. But people sometimes do have that option, and we can help them if that's what they wish to do. But normally, we only arrange the long-term rentals when they're waiting for their property to go through.
Brilliant, and thank you. We have a question from one of our listeners. Wayne, can you tell us what the current state of the Cypriot market is? Is it a buyer or a seller's market? Are prices rising?
I wouldn't say prices are rising. Obviously, we've come through the difficult times in 2008, and there was a worldwide recession, and obviously we had the banking crisis here in 2011, I think it was, or 2012. So we've been through some very difficult times, and now we've turned the corner, and property prices are slowly creeping up. I mean, obviously with the, dare I say it, the COVID virus that's currently happening, people are presuming that property is going to drop. And I personally don't believe that's going to happen, because Cyprus is different than the UK in terms of people that have bought property here. It's either a second home, it could be they've done a full relocation anyway. They're not desperate to sell. They don't have to sell. There's always going to be opportunities where somebody is in a situation where they need capital quick, and they're prepared to sell the property at a lesser price than it is in the market. But that always happens in life, you know. Someone's misfortune is somebody's fortune. But on a general, I think it's very stable at the moment. What happens in 6 or 12 months' time, well, we're yet to see. But personally, I don't think prices are going to drop. A lot of people speak to me and they really perceive that it's going to drop 20, 30%. It's not that type of market here. You know, the type of people that are coming to Cyprus have capital, they have the money. You know, I have people arriving today that are specifically coming over to buy a 2-bedroom or apartment or townhouse to use as a holiday home and to rent out for holiday lets in their interim period, because in 4 years' time, when it comes to retirement, then they'll sell their home in the UK and then they're going to relocate here. So that's the type of people that we're working with. You know, people that want to change their lifestyle, come with their young children and get them into the schooling system, which Denise and myself have helped people do that in the past. So it's not like the UK here at all. Okay, we all speak English, and it's an ex-colonial country and part of the Commonwealth, but you know, I don't see property prices dropping. I know that in the UK now there's a bit of a spike and property prices are increasing, but it's very stable here, really.
Well, there's a lot of pent-up demand as people want to move after COVID, but I think, as you said, in 6 months it might be a different matter. We have a question for Esme from Ray and Ali Bond. When it comes to signing the contract and paying the 30 to 40% of the purchase price, would the buyer have to be physically present in Cyprus to sign the contract, or can it be done electronically?
Okay, I would say 95% of the cases, we represent the clients through power of attorney. That can either be done when we meet the clients here in Cyprus, or on many occasions, we don't even meet the clients. We have Zoom meetings, we speak to them on the phone, and we send the power of attorney over, which they notarize and apostille in the UK. They would send it over to us, and we would represent them A to Z from the moment that they pay the deposit until the day that we complete and collect their keys, and we have them here at the office. So we've done it completely through distance, or we meet the clients at the beginning, they sign the power of attorney, they go back home, and then they come again to collect the key, literally. So no, it wouldn't be necessary. We would prepare the contracts, we would send them to the client, they would review it, give us the comments. And once we have the final document, they would, to show that they approve it, they would sign it and scan it back to us. And on the basis of that, we would, through power of attorney, sign the original 5 sets that will then be stamped and lodged and given to the other party to proceed with tax clearance. So it can be done remotely. The clients do not have to be here on site.
Yeah, power of attorney, great. And the second part of that question, which I'll ask you, Denise, is gazumping is quite a British term. Once that deposit is paid, is the property taken off the market so that the buyer can't be gazumped?
Yes, and that's the idea of the reservation, to take the property off the market, to allow the lawyer to do her due diligence. So the property is taken off the market for the due diligence to be done, and then that would be subject to contract. On the website it will show subject to contract, and then sold once the due diligence has been done and the lawyer is satisfied to proceed. Then the property is stated as sold. No one can come in. It's the first person to actually place the deposit that we proceed to contracts with. So there's no actual gazumping. There could be 2 or 3 people. Currently we are exceptionally busy and we have a couple of people looking at the same house, but it's the person that loves it the most that wants to place their reservation down, and then they will become the buyer.
Okay. Lynn Antcliffe asked, what sort of costs would I be talking to for my lawyer? Esme, I think you said 1%, is that right?
Yes, it's normally 1% plus VAT. There is a minimum fee, so it would depend on your lawyer, but overall it's 1% plus VAT.
Okay.
Can
And,
I just ask, sorry, can I just ask, if you want to sign power of attorney, how does that affect the fees? Or does that include?
No, it doesn't affect the fees.
Okay.
some charge extra, don't they, and some don't. I think that's what we've seen in the last sessions. But Denise, you mentioned about you sold on Cyprus managing rentals just now. Sue Hogg asked, can you arrange a letting agent to manage a holiday rental property?
Yes, you know, we in all the areas in Paphos, they obviously have a different letting agency, but if somebody buys a property with us, we directly get involved to recommend who are the best agents in the area. Some people want to do the letting themselves. I think Wayne mentioned earlier that some people buy as a holiday home and later on relocate. We often find they don't sell those apartments. They tend to then buy something to live in and keep the apartments to rent out, and it becomes not a hobby, but an income and something that they manage themselves. So there are agents, or you can actually advertise the property yourself and do the lettings yourself.
Okay, thanks. Right, a final question, which is going to sort of meld into the next session. We've talked about the C word, but not the B word, Brexit. Where do Wayne and Denise? I mean, where do UK citizens stand in relation to residency in Cyprus at the moment? I mean, it's okay until the end of the year, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, we're particularly busy currently with immigration has many appointments. It's very difficult. I think the next appointment's November. So those people that were living here for many years as European citizens that never registered as a resident are now making sure that they actually do their procedure as they should. But with residency, there's two ways to look at that. We have like investment schemes for residency, which are non-European normally. And then we have residency schemes for people that are actually going to live here. Most of our clients, they're interested in two things. Become a resident and their pension coming here. And I think we have experts to explain about that, the pension rates, but they're worried about that. That's one of the things. The other thing is the national health system, the medical. These are the two areas. And if you become a resident of Cyprus, before Brexit or after Brexit, you become a resident. So you will be a tax resident of Cyprus. This will be your permanent home, and you can apply for everything that a resident can basically acquire. But if you are a resident by investment, these are very different schemes. This is investment into property for citizenship or residency. And the British normally do not participate in those schemes. I came to Cyprus before we were members of European Union, and I became a tax resident in Cyprus. So I came to live here, I bought a house. There's a little bit more paperwork for the lawyers once we leave Brexit. Once we become non-European, a little bit more work for Esme to do in terms of applying to Council of Ministers and paperwork, but people can still come to live here without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, people will still be able to buy a holiday home. There's going to be no problems in that direction. Rent out their property, pretty much all of it.
Yes, absolutely. It depends if it's all about tax actually. So if you pay your tax in the UK and you buy a holiday home here, your income has to be declared in the UK because you pay your tax in the UK. if you spend more than 6 months of the year here in Cyprus and you want to become a tax resident in Cyprus, then you pay your tax here in Cyprus. So if you want a holiday home, that's perfectly okay, and then you follow the rules of the country that you reside. Yes, it will continue the same. I think a lot of people that are living here at the moment, they just want to tidy their affairs to make sure they can stay members of our National Health Service, and everything is in order. And that's why there's been, we've been particularly busy with buyers. A lot of people are trying to buy before the end of the year so they can get their contracts of sales deposited before the end of the year, so that they will be buyers as European citizens. So I think that's why we've been particularly busy.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We're going to be talking a lot more about residency and tax in about 10 minutes. So we've got to close off this session, but I think that's been really helpful. I think we've covered pretty much all the questions, and people can book Zoom sessions with you, Denise, Wayne and Esme. I think you've managed to sell some property. You mentioned you'd sold a property on the back of one of these, so it does really work. So thank you guys, and stay on and listen to the next and final session on full-time living, tax, financial planning. So thanks, Richard, Denise, Wayne, Esme. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.